The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. Thrilled to be here with you on this Thursday morning, and we've got a lot to cover today. My goodness, there's so much going on in the world, right? And big show. We got a lot of really wonderful guests that are going to be with us today. Before we get started with all that, there's a couple of things that I want you to know. That this is a place that you can come to where we hope to give you a 360-degree view of autism from all different sides and all different perspectives. I want you to know that if you are a parent, a teacher, a practitioner, or most especially if you are an individual who's on the autism spectrum, we welcome you to come here because we are a group of people who want to help you to get to whatever progress that is substantive and important to you, and there is no assumption about what is important to you, right? We know that everybody in this community is individual and has different needs, but we really want to help you to get to the thing that will be meaningful to you. And that can be different to different people. I want you to know that this entire program is meant to be interactive. In fact, Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate with us, while I remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, one of the things that you can do is click on the little triangle that's on the computer screen, and that will start playing a show. If we happen to be live, when you click on the little triangle, it will play the live show. If we are not currently live at that moment, it will play the most recent recorded live show. And if you want to go back further in time to see one that happened a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, you can stay on that site and do it. All you have to do is go up into the little memo tab that's in the upper left-hand corner, and when you click on that, it will give you 100 of the most recent shows to choose from to watch. Now, to the side of all that is something we call the live feature. It's the series of white boxes. One of them says your questions. And if you put your cursor in that box and start typing, all you have to do is hit enter and it shows up here on my screen. There is a little bit of a lag, and so we encourage you always to ask your questions early and often, like voting, right? But in that way, we can be having a conversation where you get to maintain a certain anonymity. Because let's be honest, if you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, you can also put in your question, but it will say who you are to the other viewers. And sometimes that may not be advantageous for you. It may not make you feel comfortable. So if you want to remain anonymous, you can do that on our live feature. No one is able to see it except for me, and then I have the choice of making it public for everyone, which I only do if it contains nothing that could possibly be identified with you. And I'm paranoid about it, so don't worry about it. And if you do want that, the only way I can get in touch with you if you send a message in on the live feature, because I don't know who you are, the only way I can get back in touch with you is to talk to you here in this format. So if you want me to get in touch with you in a different way, you do need to include other things. You could include an email or a phone number. That gives me options, right? But I won't share that with anybody else. You have my word on that. All right. The other thing that I'd like you to know at the start of the show is that we have many experts that are on the show, and we really try to give you a well-rounded amount of experts and people from the community that can help to give you insight and inspiration and help finding resources and to know what the possibilities are. We like to give you hope, right? But we have experts to talk to you about the things that they know. And I just want to remind you that I am not one of the experts. Let's be very clear about that, right? I have a very strident voice, and I act and sound as if I'm 100% sure about everything. And I want to say to you, the secret is I'm not 100% sure about anything at all, right? My mind is open, and sometimes I'm alert, and I'm wanting to learn and listen. So I'm not an expert in the field of autism. What I am is a mom, an autism mom, a proud autism mom, and I'm a former teacher. And I am somebody who feels very passionately about the fact that when you get the right resources to an individual and a family and a team that's working with an individual who's on the autism spectrum, that great things come to pass. I know this personally because my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, you see, and I get emotional. And my son is now 14 and just started high school. And I couldn't be prouder of him. And I was saying yesterday on the show that I had this mistaken notion that it was just going to get easier at some point. I don't think that that's the deal anymore. I'm warming up to the fact that there's no easier, right? But that it's all an adventure. And the truth is, if I'm really being honest, it has gotten infinitely easier because the problems have changed over to things that I think are more in line with what every parent goes through, and not the things that we were going through. Because there was a time when my son was, for all intents and purposes, nonverbal. He had been speaking in sentences and lost all of his language. And I am very happy to report that my son is incredibly, impeccably verbal now because of good intervention and good help and support that was right for him and that was right for us as a family. And there was a lot of work that was done by a lot of people, right? So I know firsthand what can happen when we get the right resources. And please don't think for a second that I think that what my son had is what you need or someone in your life needs. It's all individual, right? But I do think that when you have other people to talk to and listen to about the progress that they've made, it spurs you on and makes you want to look deeper into what will help you. And so that's what we're here about, is helping you to get that information, to get that inspiration so that you can go do things. But don't mistake me for an expert. I'm somebody who wants you to have every opportunity. And I feel very passionately about that. I always say, we hold hands through this, right? Si se puede. Okay. Having said all that, we've got a big show for you, but we do like to start Thursdays with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out, what are they talking about? What does this mean? And what does this mean for me today in my everyday life? How is this going to help me? That's what I want to know. And so we take a phrase, word, phrase, acronym, and we give you the actual definition because I think it's important to do that. Partially because I like to make fun of the actual definitions, and partially because it helps us to learn and grow ourselves. Sometimes we have to hear things 20 or 30 times before it all starts to click, right? But then we give you a working definition, something that is in user-friendly language if you don't have a PhD in psychology or autism or anything else, right? And I really try to give it to you in a context of why is it important, this concept that we're talking about, because eventually you're going to want to make this jargon term your own. I only pick jargon terms that I think can be useful to you for you to put in your toolkit. I'm not going to waste your time because I don't believe in doing that. So today's jargon term, and it's one that we've done before, but not for a while, it's fluency. And this is super duper important, especially as we start talking about going back to school. So let's take a look. And this is a word, it's one of those words that can be very confusing because we all think we know what fluency is, right? We know what it means to be fluent in a foreign language, right? But fluency for our purposes today means exhibiting retention, endurance, stability, and adduction. Okay. I know what fluency is, and I don't even get it with this definition. But let's take a look at what our working definition means. Fluency means responding with both speed and accuracy. Okay, so we start to teach an individual a skill. And it could be me, it could be you, it could be a person who's on the autism spectrum, right? Let's say that we are going to teach shoe tying. Okay, it's a thing that everybody wants to know how to do at some point in their lives, how to tie a shoe. Okay, when we teach somebody who's having difficulty learning, one of the things, and this is irregardless of whether they're on the spectrum or not, one of the best teaching techniques for teaching a skill that has complex movements and things in it is to break it down into smaller amounts, right? So with individuals who are on the autism spectrum, we take that really to heart and we'll break it down into increments, right? Of, okay, the first thing that we do a task analysis on it. So we say, the first thing that we need to do is, loosen the shoelaces so you can get your foot in. And, maybe it's pull up the tongue. We'll go into great detail figuring out what all the steps are. I once shared an apartment with an OT who was going to school for OT, and she would videotape us and ask us to do these small tasks like brushing our teeth, and we would have to do it in slow motion so that she could be like, oh, I never thought about it, that then you do this and then you do that, right? So when you really break it down, what are all the steps to getting a shoe on and tying it? Well, at some point you got to pull up on the tongue, and then there's the whole, do you pull up your shoelaces and make sure they're even? I mean, you can make it a really long task analysis or a short one, right? But then you got to break it down to, are we making a bunny ear? Are we going around the bunny ear? Are we going through the loop, right? There's each one of those steps. And when we teach this to a person who's having difficulty learning it, sometimes we will do a process called chaining, forward chaining or backward chaining, where we'll do all of the steps except for one. They'll do one step and we'll do the rest of it. And then gradually we'll have them do 2 steps of it and we'll do the rest of it until they have all of the different steps in the sequence to be able to do it themselves. But that doesn't mean that they have it fluently, right? Because they might, they got to think it through and it takes 15 minutes, right? That is not having a skill fluently. So we at some point need to switch over to getting this skill up to speed and not losing the accuracy. And that's when we're working on fluency. That it's important not to leave that step out, right? Because if they can't do the skill with fluency, then they're going to run into problems at some point, right? When somebody can tie their shoes and do it really fast, it becomes something that they don't even have to think about, right? When you're still doing it slowly and having to think through every step of it, it takes a really long time and it takes all of your brain power. When you can get to the point where you're tying your shoes and you're doing other things at the same time and talking to people, it's just a skill you possess. So we want to get to fluency, but stop and think about it. Don't we want to get to fluency with absolutely everything? So that we want to get to fluency with all of our adaptive skills, being able to pull up a zipper with the speed and accuracy that is expected of pulling up a zipper, right? We want to get to toileting with fluency. We want to get to brushing your teeth with fluency, making your bed with fluency. And these things take practice and take time, but it also takes being mindful of teaching it to somebody in a way that they're working towards fluency. Parents will say all the time, I just am so frustrated about, my kid takes so long doing this. And the thing that I always think about was that getting my kid out of the car, oh my gosh, when he was little and getting him up the sidewalk, and we lived in a condo and I would go and get groceries, right? And we had to walk up this long walkway and then up the stairs to get to the condo. And I had this young son who was on the spectrum and who was an eloper. So sometimes I'd have to go one bag at a time, go up, leave it on the porch, bring him back down. Oh, it was a project, right? And he didn't want to move fast. And somebody started talking to me about fluency and said, he hasn't really figured out how to get to the front door with any amount of speed and accuracy, right? So everything became a time game with us for a period of time. And everything that we did, it was a race, right? Can you be the first person to get to the door? And if you are, then you get to be the person who decides what we're having for lunch. There was always a reinforcer for it, right? And it built in this excitement of doing something fast, but you had to do it, I mean, obviously he couldn't leave the sidewalk, right? But this built into things that happened later on with him, that when we were doing math skills, for instance, and he was doing multiplication tables, it was like, okay, let's learn the multiplication tables and we'll do it slowly, right? But then we got to get to fluency, where you need to be able to very quickly know that 3 times 5 is 15, and it's got to, and you got to go through the flashcards quickly. But because we had set up this thing that if you can do something and do it well, can you now do it fast, and then you get a reward for it? We found that fluency was something that my son didn't realize we were working on. It just became a game. So fluency is important, though, because you really haven't mastered something completely and generalized it unless you have fluency. So think about what the people in your life, and this isn't just the person who's on the autism spectrum, what do you not have fluency with? What skill do you have to take time with and do it a little bit slower than other people? And is it important to you to do it faster? If it is, what you're working on is fluency. And one of the things that we know with fluency is that 2 components, that you got to make it worthwhile for somebody. So there's got to be a reinforcer, and that you really have to work on how to do it faster, which means plenty of opportunities. If you only get to do it once a week, you're not going to get to fluency easily. So giving somebody opportunities. If you're having trouble getting your key in the door and doing it fast enough, then you got to do it like 100 times. So giving plenty of opportunity and giving a reward for doing it faster will get you to fluency. Try it out. It can be a really fun thing if you want it to be. Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day, except on the days when I forget, which has only ever been one day, and it was last Thursday. It was like I'd never done a show before. I just totally forgot the question of the day. Okay, here's your question of the day. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? Somebody asked me this the other day, and I don't tend to think like this, right? But I don't know. It's really hard for me. I think, because I think about all the things that, the superpowers, like, would I want to be able to hear things far away? Would I want to be able to see? I guess I'd want to be able to see the future, but that's scary, right? And then I think that I sort of like the mom in The Incredibles, that she's bendy and stretchy and that she can reach and do things. I guess maybe that's what I'd want. But what would you guys want and why? You can write into us on Facebook or write it on the live feature. Let us know what you would like your superpower to be. It's kind of a fun question. We always have a topic of the week, and our topic this week, we gave this away a little bit but yesterday with Vince Redmond, but it's getting out of our kids' way. I think so often when we have a transition, and this is a transition time, right? Because we're all moving to fall schedules, which a lot of times includes school, and things are changing, and outside things are changing. The leaves are starting to change a little bit, and the temperature is starting to change a little bit. What we want to eat is changing a little bit. Whenever we have those transition times, which tend to come around the seasons, it calls everything into question, right? Everything that we're doing. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, because when we call something into question and we look at it, we go, okay, is this what I meant to be doing? Is this what's important to me? And we get to sort of realign. Former school teacher here, and I love the phrase that was used a lot in schools, which is every Monday is a new opportunity. So if what you're doing isn't working, Monday comes and you can start a new thing. You can start a new segment of learning. You can start a new way of teaching. Well, it's true in life too, right? Every week, every day, every morning, every time the sun comes up, it's a new opportunity. But especially at these times when everything is shifting, it's an opportunity to look and say, am I doing what I think is important? Am I living up to the things that I feel inside? And I don't know about you, but for me, this is a tough time, because what I want for my son is for him to make as much progress as he can and to be as independent, as they say on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, independent. I want him to be independent. And if he is independent, that means that he won't need me. And that means that I've got to get out of his way. I can't get out of his way fast, partially because I'm old and I move slow, but partially because it's not a cold turkey thing, right? Your apron strings have to stretch and stretch and stretch until you can let go of them. And my son, I don't know about you guys, but my son is 14. He is not ready for the apron strings to be completely gone, but I got to stretch him more than was comfortable for me yesterday. And that's something that we're going to be talking about a little bit today, about how we get out of our kids' way to let them find their way. Because ultimately, that's what we've all said that we want. So we must do it. All right. So to that end, on today's show, coming up in just a few minutes, we have Dr. Anna Lockman, who's going to be with us. She's from the Center for Autism and Neurodevelopmental Disorders. That's a mouthful. And it's different than the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. So Center for Autism and Neurodevelopmental Disorders, I can't quite say that. She's going to be with us to talk about a new conference that they're going to be doing in just a few weeks that's taking place at Chapman University. So we're going to talk with her about that. Then we have special education attorney Bonnie Yates, who's going to be joining us to answer some of the questions that you guys sent in that are all kind of a back to school nature. And then we have the two wonderful gentlemen from Spectrum Laboratories, Jason Weisbrod, and I think I'm saying that wrong, and Garth Herberg are going to be with us to talk about some projects that they've got coming up that are ways to help your kids to stretch and find their glory. They've got a special guest that they're bringing with them. I'll disclose that later, and we've got some interesting things to talk about. So all of that, but first we're going to take this break and be back with Dr. Lockman. Stick with us.
For the month of August, I figured we'd do some fun in the sun activity. We're gonna make our very own frozen bowling game. It's super fast and super easy. I was inspired by some lessons I saw in skills. All right, so let's get to it. The materials you'll be needing are water, water bottles, balloon, and food coloring, which is always optional. First step you're gonna do is make your bowling ball, since it'll have to freeze overnight. The first thing I'm gonna do is take my balloon and put a few drops of food coloring in it. This is optional. If you don't have food coloring or your child has an allergy to it, don't use it, but I thought it'd be fun to make everything super colorful. So, I have my food coloring. I'm gonna put a few drops in here. And then, take it to the sink and fill it up with water and tie it a knot. Here's my balloon filled with water and the food coloring. I'm gonna take this and place it in the freezer with some towels, just so it holds its shape better. Our next step is to make the bowling pins. I have 10 recycled water bottles that I've refilled with water. Now I'm gonna put some food coloring in them.
Straight to the center at full speed. Light will surround you in a blink of an eye.
Now that my bowling ball is frozen and my pins have been filled with water, let's go outside and play with these.
See all the colors in the sky tonight. It's time to let the sunshine hide.
I hope you and your family have fun with the frozen bowling game like I did with my friend Emily. Well, until next time, craft on, guys. Bye.
Can you see me flying by your side?
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're welcoming with us for the first time ever on the show, and we're thrilled to have her, Dr. Anna Lockman. And she is coming to us from the Center for Autism and Neurodevelopmental, I've tripped over it every single time I've said it, neurodevelopmental disorders. It's a mouthful.
It is quite the long name.
But Dr. Lockman, we're thrilled to have you here with us. Let's start out by having you tell our audience a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. I am the Education and Training Director at the center, so I oversee all of our education and training programs and new initiatives. And relatively new to California, I moved here from the Thompson Center for Autism and Neurodevelopmental Disorders last February. So still kind of getting used to California, but absolutely loving it and loving all of the different programs that we have at the center and education and training opportunities.
And wait until the winter. You're going to love California all the more. That's the best time to be in California.
Absolutely.
But you are here with us today to talk about a very specific event that's coming up, an autism conference on September 16th. It's happening at Chapman University. Tell us a little bit about this conference.
Sure. So it's the first time that the center is hosting its own conference, and we have picked the theme Strengthening Assessment and Supporting Intervention. And we're thrilled that Dr. Catherine Lord is going to be our keynote speaker. Dr. Lord was with us in February and did a community-based presentation. And we're so excited that she is coming back, and she's going to be talking to us about measuring change within autism spectrum disorders, which is something that, historically we've struggled to do. And so we can't wait to hear from her. And we have many other center experts that are speaking on a variety of topics. And then we also have Steve Canny coming out from Missouri to do a booster on the Autism Diagnostic Observation Schedule, or the ADOS. So we can't wait. We're thrilled to be in a position that we can host our own conference, and very excited that it's right around the corner. So we're encouraging everyone to register whenever they get a chance. And information about our registration can be found on the center's website, which is www.thecenterforautism.org, and that's the number 4. And there's information about the schedule, when people are presenting. We actually have 2 different strands that are happening at the same time. And so folks will be able to pick what sessions they want to go to. And there's also information on how to contact us if you have questions. People can reach out to me directly. My phone number is 949-267-0444, or they can reach out to us on email at centertraining1, the number 1, at uci.edu.
Fabulous. And so would you say that this conference is just for professionals? Because it seems like to me it's both for professionals and for parents. Does that sound accurate?
Absolutely. Yes. We are encouraging anyone and everyone who has an interest in autism, who has personal ties to autism, parents, grandparents, siblings, providers, just anyone in the community who's interested in learning more about autism to come to the conference. And we're fortunate that we're able to provide a variety of continuing education units for professionals. But again, the material I think is appropriate for just about anyone.
Wonderful. And so one of the presentations you're going to be involved with, as you said, is about the ADOS too, a refresher course. For our audience that maybe isn't as familiar, everybody's gone through it, but they may not realize that they've gone through it. Talk to us a little bit about what the ADOS is and why somebody would need a refresher course.
Sure. So the ADOS is the Autism Diagnostic Observation Schedule, and it's considered one of the gold standard assessments or tools that we use when we are making diagnostic decisions. And actually, Dr. Lord is one of the authors on the ADOS, so we're also really excited that she'll be here and in town for that time. And so the booster serves as a refresher course for people who have been through a previous training, and the trainings are usually 2 to 3 days. The ADOS is now 5 different modules, so there are module selections that are based on an individual's language and then their age. So the test itself is fairly involved, and we like to offer refresher courses every now and then, because the further away you get from your training time, the more you can drift. And so we want to make sure that people are still using the test appropriately. We want to be available to answer questions they may have. There are always situations that happen to come up during the evaluations that people want more information for. And to back up a little bit, the ADOS is a semi-structured play-based assessment. So I think personally, and I'm a little bit biased, but I think it's one of the most fun assessments that we do with kids. So depending on what module you're in, you get to play with a variety of toys, you look at different pictures and books, and it's just, it's a fascinating assessment to do. It's a lot of fun, and we know that people do have a lot of questions about it, especially if they're not using it all the time.
Absolutely. I just want to go briefly through some of the things that you have on the website that, as you said, Catherine Lord doing the keynote. Then you have a session on learning through play, supporting the development of young children through play-based interventions. We were just on the show talking yesterday about how important play is. And a lot of times people think, oh, I want to just work on speech and I just want to work on communication. And play is such an important component of reducing anxiety and making sure that our kids have a safe place to try things out. So I think that that's really wonderful. You've got the next one you've got is understanding the differences between special education eligibility and medical diagnosis. What a great topic.
Thanks. We hear so many opinions about, whether you need one more than the other. And Dr. Jeanne Carrier, who is our educational assessment director at the center and also a professor at Chapman University, does a fantastic presentation on providing clarity on the differences between what it means to be diagnosed from a medical clinical perspective versus what special education eligibility means, and why those are different, and why we as professionals need to be really careful about how we talk to parents about those differences, and why each of those things is important, and how to discuss those things, and to parents just a better understanding of what these differences are, and what different services sometimes are tied to a medical diagnosis versus special ed eligibility.
Wonderful topic.
We're super excited about that one.
Absolutely.
All of our presentations. But we hear a lot, even from providers in the community, there's still kind of a lack of understanding of what those differences are. So
absolutely. And then during lunch, you've got a panel discussion, Navigating Autism, Parental Insights, Experience, and Advice, which I think will be really wonderful. But then in the afternoon, you have one topic is Autism Spectrum Disorder, an overview of the role of medication, which I'm sure people will be clamoring to get to that. Then you've got your ADOS refresher course. And then later in the afternoon, I love this one, Successful Engagement of Parents in ABA Assessment and Treatment. I can't imagine anything more important.
Yes.
I'm sure, I hope that you get that well attended, because that's super duper important.
Yeah, we're really excited about that too. Kelly McKinnon Birmingham is our board certified behavior analyst at the center and also the director of our intervention services. And again, she does a fantastic job of addressing this topic. She has some parents that are going to also be part of her discussion on that topic. And like you said, we are hoping that lots of people can get to that session because it is absolutely, a critical discussion that we need to be having and something that we think is really, really important.
Okay, wonderful. And so, Dr. Lockman, we're almost out of time, but could you tell us again where we can get all this information and how people can register?
Absolutely. So you can find information about the conference and the schedule on our website, which is www.thecenterforautism.org, or you can call at 949-267-0444. Again, that's 949-267-0444. Or you can email us at centertraining1@uci.edu.
And we want to remind people that this event will be taking place at Chapman University, and this is in Orange County, California. And so you'll need to be in the Southern California region to be able to attend the conference. Are you guys going to do any live stream of any of your speakers?
We've been talking about whether or not to do maybe like a Facebook Live feed. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be whether or not our speakers are willing to do that, and if we can get our technology.
There you go. There you go. Well, let us know if you have questions about that, because we do that all the time. So we're happy to help people figure it out, because it's it's one of those things. There's a learning curve, believe me. Let us know if you have questions about that. But in any case, we thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and lovely to have you on the show, and we wish you guys great success with this wonderful seminar.
Well, thank you. We hope to see everyone there. And again, let us know if you have questions about anything. We'd be happy to help.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Dr. Lockman.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wonderful. And again, that's happening on September 16th. It is a one-day conference. It starts at 9 a.m. in the morning and it goes till 4:30 in the afternoon. Check that out. All right, we are going to take a break, and then we are going to be joined back here by our fabulous special education attorney and IEP expert, Bonnie Yates. Stick with us.
Nick was diagnosed with autism in 1994 at the age of 4. He received 5 years of therapy from CARD that eventually faded out. Nick recovered from autism in 2001.
The song I'm about to perform is by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. CARD helped many patients, myself, to recover to this level now.
Cheryl and Mike's son, Jack Riley, was diagnosed with autism in 2010 at age 2. He's been receiving therapy from CARD for a year and a half. Today, Cheryl, Mike, and Nick meet for the first time.
I'm curious as to what you remember.
I certainly remember pretty long sessions, and I'd be frustrated if I would make mistakes. I mean, I remember one time I had to count a row of 6 blocks, kept messing up. That was really difficult.
No.
I need it. I need it.
At what point do you recall hearing the word autism?
I was able to figure out what I was going through without anybody having to tell me.
Our concern is if it's a big secret to hide. I don't know what we can say.
No one ever told you, you just discerned
But the
it?
reason I'm comfortable talking about this is because I felt it. In therapy, I certainly began questioning why people reacted as they did based on what I said and did. Particularly because of difficulties I was facing in school. It got to a point where I wanted to understand why it was. I entered while still going through therapy and still showing significant signs of the mental condition. Even after I'd improved to a significant extent, there were those who still gave me a hard time for it.
Did it hurt your feelings when you were in school, the way that kids?
Oh, absolutely, because it was bullying, it was harassment.
That scares us.
They called me names. I was basically, when it came to sports and PE, I was usually the last kid chosen.
Did teachers intervene?
Not really. I mean, it was just so hard for me to talk about it because of how ashamed I felt. You know, certainly the first few years of elementary school, I don't think I really had the most supportive teachers. I mean, I remember my mom told me how my first grade teacher once said that she thought I had no chance of getting anywhere. And going away to college and out of state and being the only person from my old school district has made a difference. It's just really improved my social life tremendously because I got to be me, because with nobody knowing about my past, I wasn't faced with these misconceptions and prejudgments.
Do you tell people, new people that you meet?
No, that's not the first thing I will ever
No, I would
tell
hope it's not the
and
first
then,
thing.
You know what? In most cases, I never do, because while it's a part of my past, it doesn't define who I am. I mean, just thinking back to the very beginning, pretty much each episode, autism, what, not who.
I want to tell you right now, though, I'm so impressed with you.
Likewise.
I want you to know that.
Likewise. I mean, your son really inspires me just as much because I'll tell you anytime.
I adore him, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't challenging.
I mean,
it's cost me the stuff that like career things, goals. I don't care about those anymore. I work at night. I'm tending bar. Not that I'm too good for that. I'm just saying that's what I do. I want him to have a chance.
Right.
And you inspire me now.
Thank you. The feeling goes both ways. The feeling's mutual.
Before you leave today, we would like you to meet Jack.
I would love to.
This is Nick. Hi, Nick.
Hey, Jack Riley.
All right, should we try this? I'm gonna try to take a picture of all of you. 1, 2, and 3.
Jack Riley, you rock.
You know, we just have enough time to squeeze in a little moment of our mindfulness here because we've got a pretty packed show towards the end of the show. So I wanted to take just a moment. We talk about mindfulness every Thursday whenever we get a chance, because mindfulness is something that we now know helps us to be centered, to have less stress, and to be able to focus more on the things that are important to us. A lot of times, though, people have this misconception that mindfulness is that we're sitting in this yoga position in white clothing and we're going om, right? It isn't all about that. That's, for some people that works, but for other people, other things work. Well, oddly enough, yesterday on Ask Dr. Doreen with Dr. Doreen Grampiche here, she was talking about how important it is to daydream. And we had already set in motion for the topic today to talk about creative visualization, which is just another way of saying daydream. I gotta be honest with you. Now, there are books written about creative visualization, so if you want more to help you, and there are guided meditations that help you to picture something in your head. But the truth of the matter is that you can just sit and daydream. And what you didn't get to see yesterday during the show was that Dr. Grampiche and I were talking during the break about how important daydreaming has been in our lives, and that some of the things that have come to pass in our lives that are really remarkable are things that at one point were just daydreams. I mean, I have to say that I go to Disneyland on a regular basis, and I always say to my son, you know, there was a time when this wasn't here, when this was just an idea in one man's head. And now, you know, I mean, there's nobody on the planet that it doesn't know what Mickey Mouse ears are, right? So daydreams and creative visualization can be really powerful. They can give you hope, and they can help you to be centered, to be calm. My husband and I used to do a thing, and we don't do it as much anymore, and I don't know why. And we always say, that was so fun, I don't know why we don't do that. But we used to do this thing where we would sit on the floor when we were in the worst, most stressful moments of autism. Can I just tell you, we would sit on the floor, Indian, folded cross legs style, and we would hold hands, and for just a minute, I'm not talking about 20 minutes, but a minute, and close our eyes and picture how we wanted things to be. And then we would open our eyes and we would sit and talk about what we saw. for that minute. And sometimes it was just the flicker of something. But I can remember very distinctly sitting and holding hands with my husband and afterwards opening my eyes and saying, we have a dog in the future, and I love my job and you love your job, and our kid is going to high school. And the truth of the matter is we're there. Like, that happened. We have a dog. My husband loves his job. I love my job, and my kid is in high school. And, were those things going to happen anyway? I don't know. But in that moment in time, it felt like it was so far away, so far away. And even that being able to be in a place where we could have a dog just felt like it was so far away that it could never, ever happen. And I remember how I felt in that moment of saying to my husband, we have a dog. And how happy and joyous we both felt, and how there was something about it that was peaceful and joyous. So I beg of you to take a minute today, if it's by yourself or with a significant other, and just close your eyes and have a daydream of what's it look like in your daydream. And if things come up that are not what you want, push those to the side like clouds. Just gently push them aside and look and see, no, what do I want it to be? And visualize that and see how you feel. It may help you to make it come to life. It may just be something that makes you hopeful in the moment. But you know what I say? Hope is everything. And when we have hope, we can do anything. So take that moment. Afterwards, see how your breathing is. I think you'll find that it's like a mini vacation. You don't really have to get on the plane and go to the beach. You don't really have to ride the tram to go to Disneyland. You can just visualize it for just a minute, and it's a great vacation. All right, we're eating into Bonnie's time. So let's take a break, and we'll be back with special education attorney Bonnie Yates. Stick with us.
Being part of this community is really important to a mom with a son like Jackson, because it really does take a village, and you need so much support, to help bring out all of the amazing qualities and skills and talents that our children have. So I'm just very grateful to everybody who was a part of this.
I think it helps with all sorts of that self-esteem, social skills. They seem to communicate a little bit with each other, and they had a lot of friends. The helpers were phenomenal, and I think the social skills for sure, because they worked together and they did a couple of group things across the floor, and they sang songs together, and yeah, for sure, I think it's a really huge deal. A great program.
What programs like this show is the person is in front of what we call today a disorder. I think what we're finding is that these sorts of brain challenges that make people unique can actually be gifts in ways we haven't discovered in the rest of society to bring them out. So when you see a program like this and you see the kids dancing, having fun, and making up jokes, making up the story. I was here when they did that. That was so amazing to watch, because they were all focused, they were all present, they were all laughing, they were all getting into the creation of this story. And that to me sort of broke the barrier to say, no, first we're dealing with people, and then we're dealing with the challenges.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm so excited because joining us via Skype right now, we have the fabulous, in fact, at some point I want to make you a cape a superhero cape. But we have Bonnie Yates, superhero, special education attorney, with us from Hirji and Chow. And we're so grateful to Hirji and Chow for lending her to us for this time period to answer your questions. So first of all, thank you for being a superhero, Ms. Yates. And thank you for being here with us. Did you want to tell the folks a little bit about Hirji and Chow and how they can get a hold of them?
Oh boy, what I want to tell them about Hirji and Chow. The partners have just been going out and killing it. I can't believe it. You know, they're so busy. It's supposed to be summertime, and they're doing stuff like, we have a client who a teacher got a restraining order against, so her parents couldn't bring her medicines on campus, and that is now in the Court of Appeals because we're trying to get the restraining order lifted. I mean, they don't quit. So it's good to work with young people because they have a lot of energy. So that's the office can be reached at 310-245-1968, and the firm is Hirji and Chow. You can find us on the internet, and I think we've said before, we'll give people a complimentary consultation if they have something specific they want to run by us. So today we're returning to an interesting topic. The topic is audio recording, and I'm supposed to tell you that I'm answering these questions according to California law and to a lesser extent federal law because I'm licensed in California. So if you have a specific problem, you really need to talk to an attorney, and I'd say follow your instinct, because people oftentimes don't realize that there are statutes of limitation running, and sometimes if you wait too long, no matter how meritorious your case is, you don't necessarily have the ability to do anything about it. For a special ed matter, that's 2 years in California. For bullying, which somebody asked about, there's a separate statute that, for bullying claim is a 6-month statute. For a government claim because of a injury at school, you have to file a government claim within 180 days of the incident. Otherwise, you can't file a lawsuit. So there's lots of different statutes to be aware of. And since so many of the attorneys that do special ed will offer you at least an initial call, there's no reason to wait to get your questions answered, especially with schools starting soon.
Absolutely.
So last week, somebody wrote in and I believe said something to the effect of, may I send my child to school with a recorder in his or her backpack?
Well, and the specific was they wanted to know, in California, is it legal to have a tracking device that has the ability to listen in, which is, as you say, audio. And we've had this question many times. People want to know, can they record?
When you say tracking device, do you mean like the GPS system in a cell phone or something?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not aware that would be illegal, but recording people without their consent in California usually requires two-party consent, unless it's in, a public place where there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. So when I researched this, that's I was thinking more about just like a recording device, not something that you could, trigger remotely or anything, but just you'd turn the thing on, it would go to school, it would be running all day, and then you'd come home. Now, I mean, it's interesting just to think about how different the behavior is of people when you audio record an IEP.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's better for the case, sometimes it's worse. Because sometimes they sort of clean up and, they don't really show their true colors. But on the other hand, sometimes they don't clean up. And then when the meeting is over, you're so glad you had the recording. So I did some looking around to address the question. And because I think it's a interesting topic, I summarized some things that I wanted to tell people about, things that had happened. So in 2010, there was a case in Ocala, Florida, and I'm not clear that case is not still going on now. The claim was that the teacher and an aide were mocking an autistic first grader, and I wish I'd never for a second believed that this was possible, but I've seen it with my own eyes because I have one client that had a nanny camera in her child's bedroom, and it picked up a lot of stuff. So this was in the classroom. The mom recorded it. The question was, is the classroom a public place or not? Because if it's a public place and there's no reasonable expectation of privacy, then the answer might be different. The prosecutors in Florida said it was a gray area, which meant that they were involved in this because somebody had asked them to prosecute the mom. The child in question was 7. The child had a recorder in his or her backpack. The recording captured such things as the classroom staff calling the child a hippo in a ballerina suit, calling the child a beached whale, allowing the child to sleep in class, making fun of the child for wetting herself, making her wear soiled clothing. So the mom shared the recording at an IEP, and the teacher was placed on paid administrative leave and fired. But the aide was fired. The teacher, who was a teacher of 20 years standing, got a hearing. And that's how all this got litigated. And so Florida has a 2-party consent for any wire, oral, or electric communication unless there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. And so then, you had people arguing that the classroom was not a private place for the teacher, and so on. Sorry about sprinkling pages, noise, Shannon.
But correct me, I'm looking at, because you had sent me some stuff, Bonnie, and in the California Penal Code, if you're caught doing this, if you are, so if a mom...
We're headed toward California Penal Code.
I'll let you get there.
Only because it's interesting to see what happens in other states.
Okay.
So the Florida attorney said, we'd have to prove that there was psychological damage done to the child beyond just being mean. That would be hard to prove because the child is nonverbal. And then said it's unfair to prosecute mom if teachers weren't prosecuted. So that was that one. There was a Daily Breeze article in 2013. A teacher was heckled by a student, and the teacher responded with a profanity tirade. This is apparently an LAUSD teacher. The tirade was recorded. The Daily Breeze article said the answer is complicated because California Education Code 5152 makes it illegal to record without the consent of the teacher. But that supposedly really only applied to non-students. I'm not sure why. And then the article goes on to say if a student surreptitiously records a teacher, the school decides on the punishment because, quote, the student might be doing it with a good purpose, as this student did. So LAUSD apparently has a policy of no phones on in class, which is interesting because we have a case where a student got his leg broken in class and another kid started running his phone. And so there's a recording of it. But California is only one of 12 states that requires that you have 2-party consent. So in other words, it's not enough. You have to actually get the permission of the teacher if you're going to record in class. And if the recording is obtained under circumstances that are an invasion of privacy, Penal Code 632 in California makes the recording inadmissible. The problem you're seeing is that courts in some respects have a hard time ignoring recorded child abuse. And so they're struggling with the fact that the parent has had the student record without permission, and yet when you do record, you pick up, bad stuff. So I had one more thing, Shannon, that was really interesting that came in via CAPCA law, which was an attorney saying that her client, the mom, recorded without permission in class. And what came home was 5 hours of the students listening to Barney TV programs or whatever, and occasionally the recordings would shut off and the teacher would instruct the kids to do things and then they'd come back on. At the due process hearing, the teacher was asked, "Do you ever play Barney cartoons in your classroom?" And she said, "Absolutely not. That never happens." And it sort of went from there. So the point about this, unfortunately, is that bad stuff happens in classrooms, and because parents aren't there, they don't have a way to address those things, and so it becomes a problem. It's dangerous for people. They can be prosecuted with a felony. On one hand, you have the teacher potentially being abusive to the student, and that's illegal. But on the other hand, you have the parent engaging in something that is potentially a felony, punishable with jail time. So the answer is, I guess that's not really the way we're going to get our answers, because it's too dangerous in California. If you ask for permission to record, it's very unlikely that it will be given. You'll be told that it invades the other student's privacy. You'd have to have consent of each parent, and so on. But I'm a firm believer in the fact that this stuff goes on. We know it does. And
yes.
It's
more and more parents are successfully petitioning schools for the schools to have security cameras. We were just talking about the case. Yes.
And that's a very good idea. There's no downside to that I see.
Yeah. We were just talking yesterday about the case over the weekend that in May, 2 kindergarten teachers dragged a kindergartner, and at one point they dragged him by his foot so that he was being dragged on his face, and the school cameras caught it. And to my shock, but my, respect to the police, they let the parents see the video that they confiscated in regards to it, which I think that's extraordinary. I don't know many times that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, there are people too, and they may have been horrified. I want to say one other thing about this, though, that doesn't always get said, but I think it's true. When you have particularly like a classroom aide or a newly hired behavior therapist, I was involved in one case. It obviously was not a card case, but they picked up the behavior therapist roughing up the kid on the nanny cam. What you're really seeing is that in the case, at least of the less trained personnel, nobody's giving them the training that they need to work with the disability. And when people don't have adequate training or tools in their toolkit, one human reaction, which we're not trying to justify, but I think it's actually just correct, and so it should be mentioned, is to get angry or frustrated. And so, part of the problem is people have too many things, like teachers have too many responsibilities to do. They don't have enough support. The classroom isn't really state-of-the-art in terms of teaching. I mean, I can think of a million reasons why it's sort of amazing that teachers don't lose it more often, and yet when they do, it's a really dangerous situation for everybody. So
absolutely, especially for our kids who don't have the way of communicating what's happening.
Yes,
I will say, as a former classroom teacher, and I've been in classrooms where all manner of all kinds of things that people can't even imagine happened. I have never seen anybody dragging a child, or the first part of the video that I saw where they were carrying a child, and I thought to myself, I don't know what just happened before that, but if they're moving him away from something that's on fire to prevent him, I can sort of see, because one had a hold of his feet and one was holding him, and they were carrying him, and he was kicking and screaming. It's not the proper way to carry, but I was cutting him a little bit of slack. When they're dragging him on his face, I'm just like, no.
No, of course, we're not trying to excuse the behavior, but part of the way that
these are bad people.
Part of the way we end the behavior is understanding what causes it, and in some cases, it's that people are overwhelmed and they don't have the support. So that's a larger discussion. I'm not trying to excuse.
I knew that.
Yes. But that does go on. Anyway, the next question we had was a question about bullying at school. So I'm just going to read it, if that's okay.
Yep.
What is the difference between bullying and handicap harassment? Some kids at school are calling my kid the R word, which I believe they're, using the term retard, and makes him not want to go to school. School has said they have dealt with it, but it still happens on the playground, and worse, it doesn't have to happen now. My son is so afraid of it happening that it doesn't even matter if they say it. I have heard that I need to talk to the school about handicap harassment, and they will take that more seriously. I don't even know what to do about it. So she's packed a lot of stuff into one question. Bullying is a subset, I think, of discrimination against the disabled. So, but her question is really more, what do you do if your kid's in a situation at school and you know they're being bullied and you know that it continues? And the first thing that I got from her email is that she's handling this verbally. And as much as it would be nice to be able to do things that way, it's a very poor way of doing things, because you need to put the district on written notice that this is going on. Otherwise, they have no duty to stop. The larger question is, once the well is poisoned in that way, is there anything that could be done to ensure that this harassment ends at school? And unfortunately, the answer is, to my knowledge, no, because a lot of the time harassment occurs and bullying occurs in places where the teachers and the other staff can't see it. And so you can do, and I wish schools more often did, bring in a team of people to essentially educate the entire school about harassment and bullying and how it's got to be a zero tolerance situation for those things. But schools are reluctant to do that because it's expensive, which isn't a good excuse. If they're not going to do that, or you can't make them do that, my feeling is that once the well has been poisoned in this way, it's difficult to unring the bell, and this mom may actually need to be looking at a change of school. I don't think it's safe to assume that this has, ended and it's not going to go on. And it's very bad for people to be afraid to come to school, which is what's starting to happen to this student. Now, he doesn't even actually have to be bullied. So it's not a good situation. And if you can't really satisfy yourself that the school is going to make an effort to work on its school culture, then you may have to move on.
And where do they move to? Does it become the responsibility of the school where this is happening to help them to find some place? If they have to go to a private school, do they have to pay?
Change schools in the district. That would only work if there's another middle school or high school.
Yeah. But is it incumbent upon the school where this is happening to help this mom, or is she pretty much, she need to take the bull by the horns and just get him out of there?
Well, I think if they don't help her, they're looking down the barrel of a gun in terms of a potential lawsuit for bullying and discrimination.
Okay, so expectation would be that they would help her if they're on the right side of it. Okay.
I would certainly counsel them to help her, because they might avoid a bigger problem, a more expensive problem.
All right, very good. Do you want to move on to the next question then? Because we had a bunch of questions.
Yes. What kind of accommodations are normal for junior high? I never know what to ask for, and I feel like if I don't ask for it, we won't get it. Well, it depends on what your child's needs are and how your child's presenting. I spoke with a young woman yesterday. She's actually trying to get her license as a PT assistant. She's got some problems at the community college where she goes. And we looked at the kind of accommodations she had, and she had a learning disability. She doesn't have autism, but we looked at things like taking the test in a quiet place, having time and a half to complete the answers, having a note taker after the fact. I mean, you kind of have to drill down on what your child might need. Every IEP has kind of a template in it that lists out the possible accommodations, and I can send one to you, Shannon, if you want to just show people what it looks like. You run down that list of accommodations and you see which ones are appropriate for your student. Preferential seating, does he need a specific type of equipment, how does his homework get home, How is he, is his curriculum modified? I mean, there's quite a lot of things. The other thing I was looking into once upon a time was what kind of accommodations a teacher needs if the teacher has a disability and needs to function in the classroom. And somebody pointed out to me, I'm sure it was a millennial, that if you Google the specific area of interest or work and accommodations, it'll tell you. So believe it or not, Google has accommodations for somebody that works in a restaurant,
Wow.
somebody that works in a classroom, and so on. So that isn't really for kids, but
I think it's an interesting topic,
as long as
though.
we're talking about disability discrimination, those kinds of options exist for adults as well.
It's an interesting conversation, though, because I think at some point, I love it when autism parents get together, and invariably, and it doesn't matter what age, the conversation all turns to what services does your child have? And somebody always goes, what? I didn't know that they could get that. And it turns into this, okay, so what else do you have? I remember a parent being at a meeting where somebody said, oh, well, my child's backpack weighs so much. And they said, oh, you haven't asked to have a second set of books at home so that they never have to carry books in their backpack? And everybody else went, you can ask for that? like it was, Christmas at the table. So I think, this question really struck me. It's that, what don't I know? Sometimes when you don't even know what question to ask, you're kind of stuck.
We will, provide a list of accommodations for people's consideration. But, basically my feeling is sort of anything goes, meaning it should at least be discussed, I mean, college accommodations are different than high school accommodations. SAT accommodations are different than high school accommodations. But, the bottom line is that these accommodations are supposed to be, reasonable accommodations to the person's disability so that they can work or they can function in school, whatever.
Okay. Makes sense.
Anyway,
we'd love the list.
We'd
love a list, though. That. And then we've got about 4 minutes. So do you think we have time to do the one about field trips? Or is that a long one?
Oh, yeah, that's easy.
Okay, let's do that one, and then we'll save the other one for next week.
That's easy.
Okay.
What are my legal rights about field trips? First day of school, we got a note saying there's a field trip in October and parents are not invited. Don't I have the right to be there if I choose to? The answer is basically no. Unless there's something in your IEP, you don't have any right to be there. You might wonder what it means that they're very consciously excluding parents. That's not the usual thing, right? I mean, usually...
No, it's pretty usual. I get that a lot.
Really, you do? Well, maybe times have changed since my kids were in school. I always felt bad because I was a working parent. It seemed like other people were going on the field trips. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, unless the IEP team says that that's necessary, there isn't an absolute right to go on a field trip. But if you're not comfortable sending your child on a field trip where the school doesn't want you to go, then maybe it's not a good idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you have the right to say your child doesn't go on the field trip, but you don't have a right to go with them.
Right. I don't understand what they're trying to hide or prevent from having happen. I mean, if the attitude is like, we'll get 30 parents and we don't have room on the bus, well, they can drive their own cars.
Right.
I mean, there's ways to make there's ways to make it work if you want to make it work. And I guess one of the themes of this conversation we've been having is secrecy and opaqueness, non-transparency at school. Probably a little, something that needs to be checked out. Like, is it a power trip? Is it a legitimate reason? I mean, I'd say sort of trust and verify.
Yeah.
The next question has to do with what do I do when there's a specific thing written into the IEP that his aide meets him at the South Gate for drop-off, but the new VP has decided that the South Gate should be locked for school security purposes and that the aide can just meet him in the classroom. This means that either...
And can we save this one for next week, Bonnie?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, they're writing in about, when things change and if it's written into the IEP and what your rights are. And So we'll save that one for next week.
All right, and we'll talk some more about accommodations.
Absolutely. We thank you so much, Bonnie, for being with us and for all your wonderful, wonderful information. You have a great weekend, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was the great Bonnie Yates from Hear G and Chow, and we encourage you to check out Hear G and Chow, especially if you're looking for a special education attorney in Southern California, because Bonnie works there. You know it's good. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we've got some very special guests who are here with us from Spectrum Laboratory. They're an amazing organization that does classes, but also is a creative force using individuals who are on the autism spectrum and helping them to find their creativity and put it out onto the airwaves. They do amazing work. So stick with us. But as we go to break, we want to let you know you're going to be seeing the newest episode of Christina Adams' Autism and Beyond. Take a look.
Hard times lead to good choices. Many times you're going to find out that change is coming and it's not something that you like to see. Things sometimes just don't work. Sometimes you have to put your child in a new school. Sometimes you have to put them in a different classroom. Often you'll see this with perhaps special education versus regular education, or everyone's favorite, puberty. All bets are off then. However, these things happen when they need to happen. So making that hard choice is super, super scary. But when you open those doors to look at things that maybe you've never dreamed you would have to look at, you're going to find help that you never expected. There are a lot of people out there dealing with the same things that you are dealing with, and there is a level of help that you never even knew existed. So don't be afraid when it's time to look at the scary problems that you're having. When those things come up, when the aggression increases, when things are falling apart at home, when you're getting the calls from the schools, don't be afraid. Reach out. Find out what you need to do. You might need to look at new schools, new housing. You might need to access new levels of service. But I am telling you, you're going to see amazing things. There are children that, as they grow, do things with the help of others, very specialized support, that you never thought they could do. So once you do that and you meet the child where he or she is and you give them what they need, everybody can do better and you're going to see amazing progress.
Hi, I'm Kara Kaczynski, the Pocket Occupational Therapist, and we're here in Dallas, Texas at the Future Horizons Autism Super Conference. So the book is the Special Needs School Survival Guide, and it's everything you wanted to know about school. It is, okay, so it starts out with just different diagnoses that you might see, and then I explain them in clear terms, no technical jargon, and then each little diagnosis area has about, 50 to 100 activities that you can do at home or at school or cheaply and effectively. So it's just full of information that you can use right now. And the cool thing about it is at the end of every chapter are resources that you can use and access in the internet from a computer. And it's not just for kids with any diagnoses either. It's for kids that are just having trouble with handwriting or with dressing in school or transitions too. Well, both of my kids are on the autism spectrum, so it's important to me that when I learn something for other people, as I research it for occupational therapy, I want to try it at home. So then I take what works and I put it in a book, and what doesn't work, it's thrown out the window. And the other thing is I've just started to research for webinars, because our kids, if our kids are aging, so they start out these cute little babies with autism and now they're getting to be teenagers and young adults, and we need help with modifying the environment for them, transition planning, and especially for IEP goal writing, for functional things that they can work on, not just handwriting, but then going beyond into the transition to young adulthood. Yeah, the misnomer at this point in the school systems is that we just do handwriting. So we are actually not handwriting teachers. We can modify or help rectify a grip that's inefficient. So if a child doesn't have that nice, pretty little tripod grasp, we can help to get that. However, when the kid's in 2nd or 3rd grade, then we look at efficiency. So if the grasp is efficient, if it's a quadrupod grasp, or if it's some kind of funky grasp, and the child can write efficiently, then we leave it alone. But if not, then we go to electronic accommodations. So OTs then can look at keyboarding and what kinds of keyboards would fit the student best. Also sensory processing, as the kids get older, it looks different. So we can look at sensory processing as it relates to function in the school. And then we also can look at behavior and transition planning. Other things we can do is work on seating. So if the child's having trouble sitting still in the classroom, we can modify that too. So not just handwriting, not just sensory, but we look at behavior, transitions, so anything that affects that student's school day. Right, so that's a really good question, because sensory processing disorder did not make it into the last DSM, which is the way that medical professionals classify disorders. So it did make it into the classification under autism, but sensory processing disorder is very confusing, and a lot of therapists treat it differently. So the general overview is that sensory processing is either a heightened response to stimuli in the environment or a too low, which is hypo, response. So if the student perceives every noise around them is equally as important, or every feeling, so I'm sitting here, I can feel the chair, my sweater, the noise around me, then it's hard to concentrate and focus in the classroom on what you're supposed to be paying attention to. So we would use something, maybe a suggestion could be a weighted lap pad or some kind of fidget tool for the student to fidget with, or we can even look at special positioning in the classroom, so preferred seating. Then, with sensory, transitions can be hard because any unexpected bump in the classroom or in line can set the child off into a fight or flight, which is when they really have a tantrum and freak out. So when they're in a fight or flight mode, they may fly off the handle for no apparent reason, maybe just being bumped by another student. So it's our job to be detectives and to figure out why the student is having that meltdown. So my CDs were created for my own kids my son in kindergarten didn't like the fire drills. So he was afraid to even step foot into the classroom because the fire alarm may sound. Of course, the school's not going to say, oh, let's just set off the fire alarm for your son, Bob. So we thought, where can we get a fire alarm? So we went into a recording studio and picked a whole plethora of sounds that you couldn't control, fireworks, thunder, sirens, and we put them on a CD, and I wrote nursery rhymes, changing the words to blender, blender, it's okay, or different little Mary Had a Little Lamb is something to do with thunder. So they're kind of fun, and that way the student can control the volume of the sound. It's not a listening therapy, there's no headphones involved. It's just a fun way to control sounds that you normally couldn't control. So they're for sale at my website, thepocketot.com.
Autism. What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and
sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're really excited. I got a house full of fabulous men here in the studio with me right now. We're joined by Spec Labs or Spectrum Laboratory. You guys go by both, yes?
We go by both. Spectrum Laboratory, but Spec Labs for short.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Jason Weisbrod, am I saying it right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Jason, no. You're Jason. Garth Herberg.
That's it.
And Bob DeMarco. I keep saying Don DeMarco.
Call me whatever you want.
Well, I tell you, it's I have some timers. But in any case, I love you guys, and more importantly, I love the work that you do and the work that you do with our community, and you've been doing some pretty amazing stuff. And we've been wanting to have you guys come back in for a long time because you're always doing something new and fabulous.
Yeah.
So tell us what you've been working on and what are some things that people need to be checking out right now?
On our website, www.speclabs.org, we have a ton of media and content to look at. We have, how many music videos do we have up there?
Dozens.
I think like over 20 music videos, a bunch of short films. We have a web series with Atticus and Atticus, 2 of our actors. We do green screen improv, where a bunch of our student artists get to act out their favorite characters in front of a green screen, and it's just a bunch of fun content that they can see there. And we're starting up our new round of classes next week. On August 21st, we start our next round of classes.
And talk to us a little bit about what the classes are and how that leads to this creative powerhouse that you guys have made happen. What happens in the classes?
So on the film side, I'll talk about the film side. What we do is we create mini green screen projects, which is character creation. And then on top of character creation, I have the students write their own characters. They fill out character backgrounds. They really get into who they are, what character they're going to be playing, and then we write a monologue, we perform it in front of a green screen, and then we take these characters and we do a group class short film. So we create a short film with the whole class. I give them jobs on the short film, so they're holding boom, they're doing camera, some kids are editing now, some are even doing sound, working on sound. Atticus Calgar, one of our actors, did the score for our last short film, Atticus and Atticus. So we're really getting them involved in all process of filmmaking. And then we also have an acting improv class where it's just get together, UCB, groundlings, that kind of a team getting together, joking, laughing, doing yes-anding. improv techniques and trying to form, like the Asperger's R Us guys did, you know, try to form an improv team and have fun, and then actually see if we can go out to some comedy clubs and do it around town.
Wonderful.
So that's on the acting side, and then
and then the music department's been growing a lot. So now we're taking on students like all ages, all abilities, starting with we have a Music Explorer class that's like an intro to drumming and music, working with younger kids. We're starting a composition class that can work with really young kids up to adults, learning the techniques of composing in a variety of styles of music. And then the thing we've been doing since the start is making full-length albums. So we have a couple classes that help with that. We have a music production and songwriting class and also a singing class. And students in those different programs, they work on learning repertoire, helping to create original music, writing lyrics. We now have several students that are producing music, helping us
We've got
compose.
some pictures that we're showing too.
Oh yeah, that's
Some
the
of
band
different
right
things.
there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we also have a band. We have a live band. Spec Band. Yeah, so it's really a big program, and students with a lot of different interests in music have a way in whichever way they're interested.
Oh, and off of that picture right there, what we do is at the end of our year, we have a huge festival, a music and film festival, and called Spec Fest. And this past year, we actually now have animation as part of our program. And Danny Bowman, who's been on here a bunch of times, she leads our animation department.
Yeah.
She teaches the class, so we actually hired, you know, she's an inspiration to everyone, but she's teaching animation to young people on the spectrum. She's an autism advocate herself. She's on the spectrum. So one of the things we're really trying to bring to Spectrum Laboratory is we're going to keep hiring and trying to get jobs for a bunch of our students to work on these pieces. When we first started, Garth and I and Bob were just making a bunch of the behind the scenes stuff, and then just to get it out there. But now we're really focusing on getting everybody involved, like making it a whole team effort and teaching them the jobs and the skills how to do more behind the scenes stuff, like making the beats for the songs and editing the films and stuff
we've
that.
we've hired a lot of students so far for different projects. So far it's been more part-time per project, but yeah, that's the big aspiration, is to get our students, a lot of our students, to a place where they're professional, they're capable of, you know, taking projects, letting us hand it off to them, and they can come back and deliver wonderful results.
So often parents say, you know, there's this Temple Grandin thing about, you know, well, she found her niche. She found the thing that she was good at. And we see this savant doing this, and we see this savant doing that. How do I find my kid's thing?
Yeah.
And I always say, well, you know, sometimes these things just bubble up. But I have seen kids young people that you guys have worked with, young adults that you have worked with, and I think that you have a way of making it bubble up to the top faster. That I think you guys have a gift for seeing and feeding and flourishing whatever that something special is. And I think then you find that there are many more things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just one thing that the kid can do, that there are many things that they can do.
Yeah, some kids will come in and say, oh, I can't do any music at all. Music is, you know, I just want to do acting. And then like the second year they're in the recording studio singing, you know, like on the microphone. And we're like, we never saw that coming. So there's definitely a lot of different, I think one of the things in our mission is, you know, we're educating, we're entertaining, but we're empowering them to find their passions, to find their desires. So they may come in thinking, oh, you know, I'll never sing. But then after they see their peers and their friends and see that, you know, we make records, they're like, I want to be on a record. And then all of a sudden,
why not?
why not?
I think that's the thing that we do. It's even more than us as people. We make it accessible. So we provide for an environment where it can happen, where all of these things that, you know, before were never really on the radar.
Yeah.
It's now, you know, what do you feel like doing? And, you know, Bob is a huge part of that too. On the music side, we've been able to give just incredible experiences of working in a studio. Do you want to talk to that about what you've been doing on the music side?
Well, you know, I was a big fan of these guys from the start. And I was a volunteer. I volunteered in my studio and music production and started working right from the beginning, from the first record. And I just fell in love with working with these guys and the kids. And it's really about exposure. Yeah. You know, we don't know what we love until we're exposed to something that we could potentially fall in love with. And that happened to all of us as we were young. It's no different. But now we're just trying to create more exposure and more accessibility to these things. And it's like what Temple Grandin said, you have to, how do you know what you love until you get out there and experience things?
Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful about this program, which I just fell in love with.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
But for parents who don't know how to do it on their own, this is a great place to do it, is to sign them up for a class. Now we're talking about in Southern California.
Yeah, and right now we're just in Los Angeles, but we're definitely working on trying to expand. So if there's people out there who really want a program like this in their area, contact us, because we're trying to expand and see how we can make it. I also do mentorship. Some of our teachers do online mentorships.
So if you've got a kid that you think has a particular talent and you don't know quite how to feed it, that they can sign up with you to do a mentorship where you using the internet and Skype and things like that, can have conversations with them and with their kids to help their kids to flourish.
In certain parts of, like script writing is really easy, or even editing now, because you can send projects and footage back and forth through the internet, so accessible, or animation. There's ways of doing it where if you're not in LA, to make it accessible. Okay. But also one of the big parts, so I can't emphasize enough about what we do, is the community, the parents, the students, them getting together, the parents being able to lean on each other and have this family connection, and then all celebrate together. That's a big part of what we do. So I know you have a lot of thoughts on that as far as...
I have a lot of thoughts. I came in and I thought, this is just, LA's too limited. This is too good from an outsider, and I have a child on the spectrum, a 12-year-old, so I saw this and I was like, this needs to go all over the world. So that's the plan right now. We're kind of developing a model that can be in every state, every country. So we're planning a world domination.
All right. I support you in it.
Okay, great. We need all the advocates we can get. But that's part of it. And we're kind of working on curriculum now that can be mobile and can, it can be satellites of this program. And because it's so needed, it's desperately needed. It makes such a difference.
And it's not so much about creating the fine polished products that we do. That will always be LA. That'll be Spec Fest and what we do. But we definitely want to make it more accessible to everyone. A lot of people go on our website, and parents especially will be like, "Well, my kid can't do that."
Right.
And that's not the case. And we want to start like demystifying that and saying, no, come to our Music Explorers class. Come to the composing class, even come to our music class. You never know if they have a good voice until they sing. I know Spencer Hart's been on here, and they had no clue she could sing until she was 8 years old singing opera.
Right.
So there's a lot of people. One of our kids, Max, right now, his mom's like, oh, by the way, he has a musical voice, and a musical voice. He does. It's a beautiful voice. Yeah. But we didn't know he was just in our acting class. Yeah. So there's lots of, like you said, we can keep exploring and finding out, what their talents are.
But let's talk just a little bit about ability, because people want to know, who can really do this, because some kids have challenges that are unique to them that the parent goes, there's no way that I can just drop my kid off and do this. Is this just for the high functioning kids? Where can you take
we've
a kid?
worked with all different abilities, all different levels, all different, whatever the terms are now.
Yeah, because we don't like any of the terms, right? We don't like any of them because they're limiting.
Yeah, and I think we've worked with all different abilities. We've worked with people who are nonverbal, to people who, can write, who can speak in front of a group of people. So, but what we do is we have different levels of involvement in classes. So it's more about, well, if they can't sing, then maybe we get them on the writing side. So they're writing songs or working on a computer, coming up with beats, or on the acting side, if they're not really great in front of a camera, maybe they like shooting with a camera.
Right.
So we're trying to explore way more avenues of opening to everybody. Now with animation is a big thing.
Yeah.
It becomes very person-centered. Yeah. It really has to, like in all avenues of education and experience, and to become as much person-centered for each kid coming in, and just so they can be exposed and explore. Do I like this? Is this for me? And most of these kids just eat it up.
They flourish.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see that they have a community I think that, as you said, that's a really important thing. All of the young people that are in your program, whenever I go someplace, I see them and they are together. They are together as a group of people, and they are, laughing and talking and participating with each other. Yeah. And you never see somebody who's like off on their own by themselves. They are a family. And who doesn't want that? Especially for your teens,
and it's for the parents as well.
The moms just got together and went to some concert. I saw.
Oh yeah,
and they didn't know each other before Spec Labs. So it's and then there's kids having slumber parties and hanging out who didn't know it. Like Brandon came in first class that didn't want to hang out with anybody, and now he's friends with everyone. So there's it's that's what we love. I mean, that's one of our favorite parts about it.
It's an art program, but that's like one of the best benefits is that you're also creating this environment for friendships and to learn just about socializing.
It's wonderful. I want to talk a little bit about, you've got these laying here, but I don't think anybody can see them. So everybody grab one and hold one up. These are the CDs.
Records. We have 5. We only have 4 here. But we have 5 total.
So it's the one that isn't here that you want. It's the rare one. And where can we get these?
These are available online. You can find it at bandcamp.com. You can also find several of these records on iTunes. Just look up Spectrum Laboratory.
Yeah, they're on iTunes. Or go to our website. You can find the links to the albums on speclabs.org.
And imagine how cool it is for your teenager to be able to say, oh, this is the CD that I'm on. Come on. That is just like such a cool factor thing. And who's writing all these songs?
It's a collaboration. It's, we have some students that are writing a song a week. We have other students that are going to spend a lot of, a 4-month program working on a song and getting it to a really good place. So it just varies, and there's also collaboration from all of us, whether it's just adding a musical part or coaching in the studio if it's needed or adding that extra lyric. So it's very much collaboration, but all the students that you see that are listed here have had a part in creating and writing the songs.
And they also receive royalties.
Yeah.
So it becomes a very vocational thing.
Okay, so when you buy one of these, know that
all of the students, we share all the proceeds with. That was one of the when we started Spec Labs. That was a big goal of ours, was to give the respect to the artist, and if they do create and they do put their time and effort into this, to reward them as just any artist would. And so we share the rights.
But we can only do it if you buy the records.
That's right. You got to buy them. Now, some of these you take and turn into music videos. This one I'm looking at particularly. I love Chicken Bone and Big Mouth. Big Mouth makes me howl, and I always send people to that.
Big Mouth
is hilarious to me. So, how do you decide which ones to turn into a music video? How does that happen?
That's a good. It's kind of we're trying to figure out, we have a bunch of different people on the film side and on the music side, and so we're trying to give everybody their moments as much as we can. So a lot of times it'll be like, okay, well, these people are in this film, so we should make a music video with this person. But then sometimes it just comes out of like the idea pops.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, I can't we can't visualize an idea for that video, so it kind of doesn't flourish. But then some videos will be like Big Mouth. It was like, oh man, we just, let's go and shoot at Universal City Walk and have, this girl just talking to you the whole time and you're singing the song. And it was just like, boom, done.
It's hilarious.
Chicken Bone was a story kind of song, so it lended itself to a video. But a lot of times it's just kind of,
we want to give everybody their moment, and it's a learning process for us too, as we take on more students and bring in more artists to figure out, how can we split up our time and our resources to give everybody that moment. And some songs, the class just gets more excited about it, or there's just more of a pull to making the music video. So.
Yeah, and on Use Your Imagination, this was our last album, there's a song called What Makes a Better World. And so that's a big group song. So a lot of times we'll do like a big group number where we get to feature everybody. And that one's really amazing. You can go on the website, check out.
Now, is that the one you did on Earth Day?
Yeah.
That you did the big Earth Day?
Yeah.
Okay, so I always, you know how you have a friend who calls you at the wrong time always? How that everybody has that? I got to tell you, you guys are that friend to me, because always, like, I want to do things with you always, and I'll get an email and it's always on a day or time that I cannot do that. I got this email that said, come and take part, and you were having people all converge on one place to do this
It
video.
was like celebrating Earth Day and Autism Awareness Month together, and let's just make a peaceful, like dress up like hippies in a park and just have like a really good time.
And it sounded like the most fun day, and that
It was pretty
everybody wanted to be there, and I wanted to be there, but we already had something that day, and now I can't remember what it was, but it was something like I couldn't get out of, like my son's band concert or something.
It was like a Monday afternoon. Yeah, we got a lot of people, way more than we thought we would, to show up, so it was actually cool. But yeah, it was like a Monday at 4 o'clock or something.
Yeah, there was something that we absolutely couldn't do it. And then when you had your Spec Fest, it was at the exact time that my son's birthday party was starting, and there were people who were calling me up and going, "How could you do this? Do you want to go to Spec Fest?" And I was like, "They didn't tell me until after I made." So this year, I'm not making his birthday party plans until you tell me.
We'll announce Spec Fest
when
like
Spec Fest is.
6 months prior. We'll make
Could
sure
you
to
let
get
me
a
know,
date
and
down
I will make sure that I don't schedule something on
it will be in May.
Every year, I want to come to that.
You know, actually, we can say right now, it's always probably going to be the weekend before Memorial Day.
Okay.
Because that just seems to work the best. It's like the weekend before Memorial Day, because that's like right before summer, so that's usually when we'll have Spec Fest.
Yeah, when you think of May, just think of Spec Fest.
Think of May, think of Spec Fest.
Because I want to come to Spec Fest. So, and then we should also, in case somebody has just joined us, say the website again.
www.speclabs.org.
And all the videos they can find via that, correct?
Yes, they're all right.
Point to it, great.
There, yeah.
So, but you've got a new video that's out that's
Yes.
particularly cool and you use particularly cool technology. Tell the folks what that is.
So, there was Facebook and Oculus came up with a program called VR for Good, Virtual Reality for Good. They put out an application process online. We looked at it. We said, this looks cool. Our friend Dale, shout out to Dale,
Thanks, Dale.
turned us onto it. And we were like, all right, we'll submit. So I came up with this little, it'll be what we do at Spec Labs, and it'll be a fun like tour of what we do. And submitted it, and then a month later, they were like, congratulations, you were one out of 600 nonprofits from all over the world to be chosen for the VR for Good program. We're flying you to Silicon Valley, to Facebook, to Zuckerberg headquarters.
The belly of the beast.
to go through a boot camp and learn all about how to create a virtual reality video. They paired us up with a director named Roberto Drillia from New York. We met him there. He got schooled in the Nokia Ozo camera.
Mm-hmm. Very fancy camera.
And we came up with like a little outline of a story of what we were gonna do, and then Garth here, basically, you want to tell them what you thought?
Oh yeah, we were talking about a story, and we realized a musical would be amazing. So we turned it into a virtual reality musical, mini musical. It's about 5 minutes long.
We're kind of like a music video, but it has a musical theater vibe to it.
But it's shot in 360. Now, I can't watch it yet on Oculus, but I can watch it on my phone, and I can move the little thing around and go 360 degrees all the way around and be looking at whatever I want to that was happening while it's being shot. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a full, if you don't have a headset and you can't watch it that way, you can see it on our Facebook page, on Spectrum Laboratories' Facebook page. I think I just posted it today to put it at the top. We got over 500,000 views on it now. So it's right at the top of our Facebook page. And you can watch it on a phone. You can move it around like this. On your computer screen, you can click and drag around. Like if Spencer's doing singing or opera, but if you look around, then you see like us in the audience, like watching her.
Exactly.
So yeah, you gotta just look around.
I gotta try it with a headset. I didn't realize I could put just a headset. It doesn't have to be hooked up to Oculus.
Yeah, I brought one so I can show
Okay,
you.
because I watched it on my phone and thought it was really cool. I have to say that the VR thing for a long time. I'm a person who gets car sick on a stationary bicycle. Like it takes nothing. I'm car sick right now. I'm dizzy right now sitting here, okay? It takes nothing, I don't drink alcohol. I'm just dizzy all the time. So the idea of putting on glasses and being in a 3-day thing, it scares me, right? But recently my son made me try Oculus, and it blew my doors off. I just thought it was the most, and I didn't get at all car sick. I was probably less car sick doing Oculus. Maybe that's my alternate universe, that I was supposed to be born into Oculus. But anyway, for people who are afraid of it and don't want their kids to be trying it, I have to say, I think it's the future of everything having to do with autism.
It is, and we're investigating and exploring more of how we could still continue that, because there could be educational tools. There could be like,
gosh, the possibilities are
the possibilities
endless.
are endless. And Yeah, the video is it's just a testament to what we do. Is the song, our students created the song with Garth. We sat down and we had a
Had a
whole
great writing session, and worked at Bob's studio, getting everybody in.
Yeah, got them all into record it. We got all like there was like 30 of our Spec Lab students are in the video, so we try to include everybody as much as we could in the video. So
well, and when you could do 360,
yeah,
you had room for people, right?
Our artists were just amazing. I mean, some of them were there for 8 to 12 hours a day, and they were just, it was like a real set, really cool experience. And they went through wardrobe, they went through makeup, the costumes were amazing.
They really were.
And they all were so professional and handled it so well. And it was another beautiful moment for us to realize, like, they really get it. They want this. They know this is something cool.
They had to have been so excited to have that opportunity. I mean, this is really cutting edge stuff. I mean, how many people do we know that have done that kind of a video? You had to go to Facebook to learn.
Well, we looked it up.
I
mean, we were the first ever autism musical or creative type of video in VR. There's been a couple other pieces, but they're not really like a narrative, creative, piece like this. There's some things are more on the educational side, but nothing quite like this. So we're just really proud that we were able to pull it off.
And again, if people go to your Facebook right now, they can look at that. What is the Facebook?
It's just Spectrum Laboratory Facebook. If you go on Facebook, just look up Spectrum Laboratory. Okay. You'll see our logo, this logo. You'll see us, and then this picture, actually, the one that's behind me, is on the Spectrum, on the Facebook page, so you can't miss it. You'll be able to find it.
So I'm skipping all over the place, but I want to go back to the classes for a second because it's time to register for them for anybody who wants to do them.
Yeah, August 21st, we start next week.
And then how long do the classes last? Is it pretty much like on a semester thing?
It's a 4-month program, so we're going to go from the week of August 21st to the week of December 11th.
And when are they in the afternoons? Are they on Saturdays? Different classes, different times?
Varies. On Mondays and Tuesdays, it's 4 o'clock to 5:30.
Okay.
And that's right across from the Getty Center for all you Angelinos. It's
at Leo Beck's campus. It's right
Leo
next
Beck
to the
Temple.
Getty Center off the 405. It's off the Getty Center exit. That's Monday
and
Tuesday.
Is it the Skirball exit?
The Getty Center exit.
The Getty Center exit.
Very close to Skirball.
Okay.
And then Saturdays, we're at Music Space Studios.
Music Space Studios in Van Nuys, and we have classes going from 10 a.m. till, is it almost 5?
Like 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Music Explorers, the composition class, then it's the band class, then it's animation class, and then the acting improv class, all on Saturday, all day.
Okay. And so people can, I know I was on your website the other day and checking that out and going, oh, look, their classes are getting ready to start. Yeah. So people can check all that out.
Yeah.
There is obviously a cost for them, and they're different classes, different costs, or they all pretty much
they're all
same?
different costs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you guys aren't regional center vendored?
We're working on it.
Working on it.
Yeah, working on it.
Would you get that, please?
Yeah,
There are people who want
yeah,
that.
for our mentorships, we're kind of been able to because it's, but we're working on trying to get the classes. So we're going through it.
It takes a while.
It takes a
Thank
while.
you for doing it because it's a lot of hard work, but it's helpful to those families
It's crucial,
that need to be able to do that. That's a fabulous thing.
Yeah.
You guys are amazing, and you do amazing things, and you inspire our kids to do amazing things. I'm a little jealous. I gotta say, I'm a little jealous because it looks like it's so much fun.
Well, yeah,
as
Bob says, we gotta just have fun while we're doing it, and
Yeah.
to grow and to just keep as long as we're having fun, then everything's right, and as long as we have it with intent and heart, and we just trying to.
And the kids are having fun.
Yeah.
And they're getting so much out of it. That's all that matters.
Absolutely.
It's an open door, though, Sham. I mean,
Yeah, you can
come
in.
be a part of it.
You know what? You look like a music explorer. I'm kind of sensing that.
Come get some aggression out on some drums.
We'll talk. Yeah.
We'll have you get cameo in one of our films. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I think so.
No,
We should shoot something
I
here,
want to come
like
and,
a little green screen
We
in
can
here.
do whatever. Please, I want you to come and collaborate whenever you want. No, my master's degree is in theater. I used to teach college acting, and I used to teach improv and all those things. And somehow I'm doing this. And everybody always says, I don't understand why you are. And I'm like, because this is what happened. But I look at what you do and I just go, oh my gosh, that looks like a great deal of fun. That looks like a really good time.
It is.
Yeah. That's why I say I'm a little jealous. They're plotting against me over there.
I
I would love to come and teach. I just don't think I have the magic that you guys have. And I'm going to be honest about that. That I think that you guys have something really special that not everybody has. Let's be honest about that. I think about Atticus Baldwin came and was on our show just when you guys were getting ready to do the show that you guys do with him. Yeah. And I met Atticus and I just was like, oh my gosh, this kid needs his own show. and I was saying to him and to his mom, come and do a show here. And mom was like, no, they already have plans. They're already working on something. And I was like, no, but good. Definitely do it. But I recall Atticus went out afterwards we were sitting, Nancy and I were talking with his mom, and Atticus went out into the control room. And it was at the time that Kelby Wood was working here.
Yeah, he loves Kelby.
He loves Kelby. In fact, there's a song that we were saying, is that
we
based
have a song on the Stanley's Cure for Fear, Kelby the Monster.
That we said, is that based on our Kelby? Because we weren't entirely sure.
It was Kelby the Friendly Monster.
The Friendly Monster, yeah.
But they went out and he started asking Kelby questions. And there was just this wonderful process that happened about the soundboard that 5 seconds later, Atticus was having such a good time on the soundboard. And I recall his mom saying, this is the work of the two of you, that you had opened up his world and made it so that he, with no fear was like, I want to know what that does. Kelby, teach me right now. And Kelby was like, let's get down to it. And they had a good time. Good time was had.
That means a lot.
Well, I know it sounds a little cliche, but they've really opened up our world too. I mean, we didn't realize what this community was capable of, and I had no idea what kids like Atticus could do, and just how talented he is. So it's just been, that's one of the best parts of doing this, is just seeing the potential that's there and how much fun we can have and what we can create.
Yeah, well, with Atticus, I knew he was a great singer and dancer because I did theater with him, and I knew he was, big personality. But yeah, since we've been doing this, now he wants to write his own movie, make his own movies. He wants to act and all. He wants to, he wants to get out there and really do it all.
Fearless.
And he's been with us since day one, and we love him, and he's one of those people that we want to really take along with us. He's part of the team now. Like we consider him not like a student. He's like. Yeah. He's part of the team, and we're going to be working with him on shooting more, writing more, and not just on getting him more vocational skills and learning how to do it.
And then of course we'll lose him because he will go off and be a star. And then we will try to get him back to at least guest in the classroom every now and then.
Yeah,
and that is the truth. That is the truth. I mean, the first time I saw Atticus perform, I was intrigued by the fact that his name was Atticus because my son's name is Jem. We're all big fans of To Kill a Mockingbird, right? So I'm like, Atticus and Jem, it's so cute. And my husband and I were like, oh, look. And there were multiple Atticuses. And we were like,
we had two Atticuses, so we're like, we have to do a web series now. We have to do Atticus.
Exactly. And, but I had no idea. And I watched Atticus. Both Atticuses are brilliantly, talented. Yeah. But Atticus Baldwin, it never occurred to me the last name Baldwin, and then somebody said, you do realize he's the next generation of the Baldwin brothers, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's your genes showing up. It's clearly runs genetically in the DNA.
Yeah. But that kind of fearlessness and uninhibited. Entertainer side. It's in most of our students have this.
Honestly,
and that's
I do think you guys bubble it up.
But I also, I've been teaching for over 10 years, and I spent a lot of time working with kids and young adults that aren't on the spectrum, and just to see within the autism community how many students are they don't have the fear mechanism. It's like that's been so inspiring to just see if you set it up. they'll go for it.
Yeah, but there's the missing thing. That if you set it up,
Sure.
and that's what
Well,
you guys
it takes
do.
a team,
That's the
yeah.
secret sauce.
Yeah, well, even Temple Grandin, going back to what she said it was the support of her teachers and her.
Yes.
There were some mentors around her that really lifted her up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what what we do is we provide the mentors, we provide the teachers to lift them up,
Well-
and then set them free.
And to take it back to, it's the yes and. They need the yes and from the instructors, and I think that you guys do that. You say yes and to them all the time.
And they can learn it in the improv class.
There we go. There we go. So, Spectrum Laboratory, last thoughts, because we got about a minute. Where can they go again to get all this wonderful merch? If you want to hear the Kelby the Friendly Monster.
Yeah.
www.speclabs.org.
There
it
you go.
is. There it
And
is.
then
Go to our Facebook page, like, share.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, and check out our VR video. And if you really love it, then there's an album with a whole bunch of other songs. The song from the VR video is on the album, and it's the title of it, Use Your Imagination.
Fabulous.
So the VR video is called Use Your Imagination.
And please reach out to us, thespectrumlaboratory@gmail.com. If you have any questions, if there's something you've seen today, you want to know more about our classes, our program, please
there's
send
a
us
contact
message.
page on our website, so you can just fill that out, and we'd love to talk to you, even if you're not in LA, wherever you're at, just to start the communication going.
I have nothing but love and respect for you guys and what you do. It's amazing.
Love you,
keep it happening. All right, we're out of time here, but we'll be back next Wednesday over the weekend. Keep an eye on our Facebook. We're going to be replaying this on Facebook Live in just a few minutes, and we're going to be at the incident of the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime this Sunday with a group of people with a talk back. And if we have an opportunity, we'll send pictures or maybe even a live splurge. And I am in Bakersfield speaking to a group of parents on Saturday. So if you're around, I'm there at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We're totally out of time, but we'll be back on Wednesday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.